maybe we'll extend our ambition to solar system and beyond.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Azure Talks. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going Scandinavian style. I'm very pleased and honored to welcome two special guests on today's episode. First of all, Maxim Salnikov, welcome.
Hello.
So Maxim, you're an Azure Go-To-Market Manager at Microsoft. You're leading the go-to-market strategy for application, innovation and developer solution areas. I believe you're an ex-Microsoft MVP in the development technologies. Are there any words you want to add about this introduction about yourself, Maxim?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super happy, super excited to join this podcast. And maybe I'll say a couple of words about what I actually do in Microsoft Norway, to be precise. I'm based in Oslo, capital of Norway, and I work for Microsoft for around 4 years. And my main my main goal is to make developers happy with our cloud offering, which is Azure. So that means that behind all these long internal and external job titles, I mainly do developer relations, developer engagement in very different forms. And of course, since building applications like app innovation in our taxonomy is the most, let's say, developer-focused, developer-centric, developer-friendly direction from of all Microsoft technologies, I also put special care on that direction. So, in a nutshell, you'll find Maxim supporting all third-party events like conferences, meetups happening in Norway, as well as customer and partner internal events where I try to bring our content, bring our technical speakers, speak myself. That's all about me. And at the same time, I together with my colleagues, we go through say some more business related things just in order to understand where our customers going in terms of building new applications and modernizing existing applications by migrating them to the cloud, just to unlock their opportunities. So that's about myself. And I was a Microsoft MVP for a very short period of time, 1 year, and Microsoft was very quick to hire me. But I still run some developer communities. I involved in building some non-profit conferences. So yeah, I'm big fan of all kinds of developer communities.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Maxim. And I think there are very interesting subjects that you already mentioned that we're absolutely going to talk about within this podcast. And we're not going to do that with the two of us, because joining us today from Sweden is Jonah Andersson. And Jonah, I always have to think about Daenerys Targaryen when I see you on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and because, well, the fancy titles, it keeps going with you. You're a full stack developer, senior IT consultant at Forefront Consulting. You're a Microsoft Azure MVP, Microsoft certified trainer, founder of the Azure User Group Sweden. You're a writer, you're a public speaker, and so on and so on. Thank you for joining us today, Jonah.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for having me today at Azure Talk podcast. And it's an honor to be here with you, Rolf, and also Maxim. And I thank you for the great introduction. And yes, I like watching Dragon, like the mother of dragons. But I'm like the superwoman of Azure in the Sweden arena. I'm the only actually female Azure MVP. In Sweden. So I'm humbled and proud to be one, and I'm very passionate about what you do. And that's the great thing about what I do as a consultant or as a community leader of Azure User Group Sweden and a developer. It's like it comes naturally and everything is connected. So yeah. And to introduce myself in continuation of that is that I work as an IT consultant for the past 8 years here in Sweden. And I've been working first as a .NET developer, full stack, but in my project for the past 6-8 months, I've been having this different hats or different roles of software engineering to cloud, specifically with Azure focused, infrastructure as code. To Azure and all cloud native. And on my free time, as mentioned, I do public speaking, writing my first book about Azure because of a cloud migration journey experience that I had that inspired me. And I also run Azure User Group Sweden. In fact, we have session coming bi-weekly. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's about
So
me.
you're both very busy people, I guess. But well, let's just lay back a little and talk about the things that we love the most, which obviously are within Azure. And reflecting on October and November, these months, for me, they have been very interesting months with lots of webinars, user group meetups, and also the bigger conferences like Microsoft Ignite and GitHub Universe. And the announced services and features are still fresh in my memory, at least. And well, I have to take this opportunity because it's not every day that I'm on a podcast with two highly skilled professionals that are dealing with this cloud native development area every day. So let me just dive right in. Jonah, from looking at the Microsoft's roadmap, what have you seen these last couple of weeks or months that really get you excited based on your role and expertise?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. I've been working with cloud native development, especially in my project with my consulting job. So we are building something all cloud native to Azure. And what excites me the most is that the option for automation, like infrastructure as code, which I do myself every day as a DevOps engineer or DevOps lead, and also the what excites me as well is the option to the container, Azure Container Apps and Azure DevBox and all those things that you can just literally do in your web browser, like the GitHub code spaces, which gives opportunity for us developers or engineers working with cloud or with Azure to collaborate better without any hindrances of the on-premise or old way of development, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, legacy, yuck. We don't need that. Yeah, right. But that seems like something that Microsoft is doing on purpose to empower developers, right, Maxime? I mean, Jonah is talking about DevBox, and I know that they announced deployment environments on Microsoft Ignite, which is still in, I think it's in private preview though. But what is really the vision of Microsoft to empower these developers to bring more into that cloud capabilities? So can you elaborate with us a little on how do you approach your customers and how do you help these developers to actually take on that power that Azure holds within itself?
Yeah, absolutely. But first, let me follow up a bit on what's hot in terms of developer trends and requests. And I can tell you from my perspective, from requests from customer side, I have lots of email conversations every day with our customers, and from very dev-centric requests, I can name, for example, infrastructure as code using Bicep. So this is a very big topic these days, and lots of requests where people want to know more how to start, and those who already started want to know some best practices around that technology. So this is really blooming these days, as well as Azure Container Apps, like Jonah mentioned, and that's my personal area of interest. Just a bit about my background. Before joining Microsoft, I spent 20 plus years in web development. Started as front end, ended up like full stack, and my favorite service on Azure before Container Apps was Azure Static Web Apps. So it's perfect way to deploy static web apps, but reality shows that many of what we call front-end applications are a bit more complex than just set of static files. And here, container apps or Azure Container Apps (ACA) comes to salvation. And I see spike of interest from our customers to this technology. That's very early in its let's say technology career compared to, for example, to AKS and all other offerings for deploying applications. But I see that adoption is going with a very, very good pace. Now, back to a question about how we empower developers. First of all, that's part of our global mission. And I'm sure that all our watchers are aware of this strong, bold statement from Microsoft, where we want to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And I'm always joking that now our ambitions only for one planet, right? But who knows where Microsoft goes next? Maybe we'll extend our ambition to solar system and beyond. Of course, these are very strong statements, and we have lots of actions to support this statement. You already mentioned that. I personally a strong believer that Microsoft has best developer tools on our planet. GitHub, Visual Studio Code, and a bunch of tooling for, let's say, new categories of developers, whom we call citizen developers. It's maybe it's a side discussion, but low code, no code tooling is also something that we heavily invest in. And our practical goal here is to enable collaboration, enable security, and from the very first step, this mantra, shift left, so we do not end up with security. We start with security, and it goes as a red thread through all our tool chain for developers. Remove all possible blockers in your developer life, developer career. So literally, we want just to let's say enable developers to start working on a project immediately. So this is why we have a bunch of cloud developer environment, so you don't even need to install anything to your machine. It's just web-based, and you get all collaboration tools out of the box. And you don't have to care about performance of your local machine. For example, if you want to spin up a local version of the application. And I'm personally a big fan of GitHub Copilot. I know there are very controversial opinions from the developer community. What's some feedback is about using code that other developers wrote, but let's keep it beyond this discussion. A tool itself that really enables. I can speak for myself. When I start building my side hobby small project, I cannot imagine myself now without help of GitHub Copilot. Can I do the same without Copilot? Yes, I can go to Stack Overflow to search for some algorithm, and I can type in some scaffolds of, for example, React component myself. But why spend time on this if I have this immediately? This is and this is just the beginning. So who knows where it leads the developers? It's all in the scope of developer empowerment. And last statement from my side. Recently, I tweeted about GitHub Copilot based on article saying that developers who use GitHub Copilot, like myself, they now push to source code repositories around 40% of the code auto-generated, generated by Copilot. And in my tweet, I asked what happens after this percentage goes over 50, let's say 51% of code generated by Copilot. Who is actually now pilot and who are co-pilots? So that's a big open question, and that might disrupt how we build apps. We'll see. We'll see.
Yes.
Lots of words from my.
Yeah, interesting, because I haven't used Copilot a lot in my personal project, because I think my project or my client is sensitive to using Copilot yet. But I've used it in my personal projects, and most of all when it was released the first time months ago. I write my book in Visual Studio code, and when it was like released, I said I'll install the preview of Copilot in my Visual Studio, and it was interesting. I wasn't coding, but I was typing something about, like, for example, I'm writing a topic about Azure Static Web Apps, and it's gonna, like, the Copilot's gonna suggest the sentence for my writing. Of course, I cannot copy it, otherwise I'm a lazy writer, right? But it helps me kind of give a hint of keywords that I can write as a writer, especially when I'm on my writer's block, when it's my first book project. So I love I can feel the passion that you have for Copilot, Maxim, and I'm sure it's definitely a great tool for us developers when it's like fully supported and the capabilities of it are exposed to many people.
Yeah, and I actually demoed Copilot last evening to a lot of my colleagues and in the Netherlands, and some of our cloud engineers are actually working with Copilot to write their Terraform code. So when we're after a session, we talked a little, and I talked with one of the cloud engineers, and I asked him, do you save time when using Copilot for writing your Terraform code? And he actually told me that he will never go back without Copilot. It saves him, like, well, you mentioned 40%, but he's already saying it saves him more than 50% of his time for writing his code. So that's a very, very promising feature, and I think that in terms of adoption for developers and cloud engineers, this will be something that people will very quickly become natural for them, and one of the primary tools that they will use for writing their code. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. All those artificial intelligence capabilities that we are now bringing to empower our professionals.
Yes, that's right. I have something to add. Maxim mentioned about Microsoft is always striving the best to improve developer collaboration and community empowerment. And I, as an Azure developer and also working or developing with .NET, I believe in the capabilities of Copilot in terms of pair programming. Sometimes you get stuck in the problem. And sometimes if you work as a consultant, every person in the team are busy with their own tasks to deliver during the sprint. And if you're a developer stuck with something and nobody else can help you, you can use Copilot to be your pair programmer, right? If it can help you speed up your delivery of business. So it really helps. There's a benefit of that, and it's just how a developer can see the benefit of it in his or her perspective and the mindset, of course. Yeah.
I'm actually envisioning GitHub Copilot now as Clippy. So Clippy is coming back. Our digital body within our office suite is now coming back in the form of GitHub Copilot. It's awesome. You will never feel alone again, and you will always be happy to see your GitHub Copilot. So what's very interesting is that, Jonah, you mentioned that you're full stack developer and you're also writing infrastructure as code. It becomes clear to me that when I ask something about developer technologies, that Maxim is answering with infrastructure as code by Bicep. When we're talking about the adoption of cloud services or cloud native thoughts and thinking, does the work and needed expertise for software engineers change when they take that cloud approach?
I wasn't sure if I understood the question. Are you asking about the infrastructure as a code or the cloud native approach? I'm sorry.
Well, my personal view is that they go hand in hand, but it actually, let's say I was 20 years ago, I was a traditional programmer writing stuff in whatever programming language I wrote stuff in, and I'm now in the process of embracing that cloud native approach? What is needed for me to learn and to change my way of working? How different is it towards the traditional days?
Yes, that's that. Now I get it. Thank you for rephrasing the question. Yes, I am a advocate of this because one of my previous or very first project as a junior developer years ago, in the gold old days, I was like responsible in improving, maintaining, and developing features in a legacy system, a .NET application. And at that time, I have to do everything manual. So I code the .NET, I build the files of my code, save, go to the on-premise VM, upload the DLL files, and then check the web server, restart it, and then check if it works. And that's like the good old Dragon days. But now, today, because of cloud native, a developer can just like me, can just literally write the code, push it to GitHub or Azure DevOps, and the pipelines take care of it. And in terms of switching back to cloud native and infrastructure, the infrastructure as code either by Azure Bicep or Terraform, if the company is aiming for multi-cloud, it's interesting because you can spin up or create resources that you have in Azure in few minutes, so quick in case of something happens or something breaks. In the good old days, it's not easy to do that. Everything goes panic and crazy and the business is done. But that's what I love about what I do. Great things, great possibilities, and great problems are solved.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember back in the days in traditional concepts and architectures when we had to execute our disaster recovery plan to actually build back what we destroyed with new code push. And yeah, it was
Yes.
a
Yeah.
horrible days.
Yeah, I have also something to add. Cloud native also allows us the power of cloud. Azure, for example, the option for workloads like scalability. Like in the good old days, sometimes you have to like call a tech support or help support to literally increase the memory of your databases because the system is very slow. People are complaining. But in the cloud, you can set it up in auto scaling depending on the workloads that you have in different regions or environments. So I'm sure Maxime has a lot to say about this, about the power of cloud, right?
Oh yes, but you mentioned all let's say core advantages of this mindset. I can only add that if you really contribute your time efforts into building a cloud native application, that's very good investment. And regardless of which cloud are you at these days, if this is like truly cloud native and like not too much specifics in particular hyperscaler, you add cloud interoperability kind of for free. And it's not only about moving from cloud to cloud, it's also about for example having some parts of your application on-prem, having some parts of your application like easily testable, reproducible on your local environments. So that brings this narrative to the table also, which is also very very good thing to have in your digital solution.
Yes, that's right. I'm very happy. I just want to add, Rolf, that I'm very happy that I'm with Maxine in this podcast episode right now because I admire the community work that Maxime do in Microsoft Norway, and I know in Sweden I'm very active in sharing about Azure to the community in my user group because I find value in the importance of community and knowledge sharing in terms of preparing developers to be cloud native prepared, regardless if they're consultant, they're just beginners, or good already in what they do. There's always opportunity to learn from others or every problems that we solved. So yeah, I'm glad to connect with both of you.
Awesome, awesome.
I can add to that that my strong belief is every developer sooner or later will be cloud developer. So it's just inevitable, and the sooner, the earlier you prepare for this, the better for your dev career. And my huge kudos to Jonah for running this motion. And let's from Microsoft perspective, unfortunately, I hope it's temporary, but we don't have Maxim in Sweden. Like this job position
I know.
is open, and this is why it's even more important. Like it's super important to have folks like you in Sweden who is driving developer engagement, who is still representing Microsoft for the developer community. So my huge thanks to you.
Yes, thank you. And I know that one of your roles, Maxime, in Microsoft Norway, or someone working for Microsoft for developer community, is to encourage, like for example, the Azure Heroes initiative for the community. So yeah, your role plays an important part for me as an MVP in the Nordics, at least. So it's really good. That's what I love about community. It's like the more you share, the more you give, the more you gain something from it, the more you get inspired. And it's really exciting days we have and technology we're working on.
Totally.
It's always great to see like-minded people that are passionate about the things
Yes.
that they do, right? So, yeah, it's almost like we're trying to convince other people that are not really there yet to become just as excited about these technologies as we are.
Mhm.
Following that up, you say that it's good for your dev career to embrace and sink into the cloud native approach as soon as possible, Maxime. What would you advise to organizations, or maybe even developers that really want to, but the organization isn't ready yet to embrace all that beauty that, well, in our case, Azure holds or has to offer for them? So, let's say I'm a Stony COBOL developer, and I want to embrace all that power that cloud holds. I want to enroll my infrastructure with Bicep. I want to leverage container technology, and I want to write Golang or whatever type of programming, because I'm a programmer. It's like, if you know one language, it's pretty easy to learn new languages. I know they're not all the same, but it's like if you have made the click in your head, it's easier to learn a new language. What would you advise to those professionals towards their board or their management or the rest of their organization to build up that business case and the need for that cloud native approach?
That's very good question, and I think we still don't have COBOL as a target language on our platform as a service solution, but no doubts you can run COBOL in a container, you can run COBOL on a virtual machine, so you're still a cloud enabled developer. But yeah, jokes aside, it's all about skills. I mean, there are so many scenarios when the initiative to go to cloud goes not only from top to bottom, but from dev team, starting from, for example, small experiments, starting from moving some small part of workload to this or that cloud, just for experimentation. And in majority of scenarios, these experimentations go so well that more and more parts of application goes to the cloud, and then time comes to modernize whole app, to split it into microservices if it's a monolithic approach. And yeah, to start with this, you need skills, and this is another big part of what I do in Microsoft. So for me, skilling is very good door opener, very good topic starter in my conversations with any type of developer from any company. I mean, from customers or partners of Microsoft, or for customers or partners of our competitors, or startups or students. So it's all about cloud skills. And we in Microsoft, I think we have best in class resources for every individual developer to start their cloud journey. Just to name a few initiatives, Microsoft Virtual Training Days, free webinars where you not only go through foundations and advanced parts of cloud, but you also get the opportunity to receive voucher for trying exam that is attached to a corresponding track that you went through, and having certification. Definitely, this is optional, right, for you in your dev career, but it's very nice addition to your CV, like very like a nice formal line in your CV. Then a bunch of more hands-on events like Azure Immersion workshops, where you go through some advanced part of Microsoft Azure guided by instructor. Not even saying about Microsoft Learn. That is our huge resource for self-paced learning. And maybe many folks who use Microsoft technologies noticed that maybe a couple of months ago there was major refactoring of all documentation, all training resources in Microsoft, and now pretty much everything is under Microsoft Learn umbrella. So there is no more docs.microsoft.com website. I mean, of course, all redirects are in place, but now it all leads to Microsoft Learn, and that's our commitment to develop this brand, this upskilling brand forward, and we'll embrace more and more resources for developers to help them upskill themselves in cloud technology. So huge announcements are coming. Stay tuned.
Yeah, awesome. And that was actually a very smart move to integrate that within Microsoft Learn. So I hear so much positive feedback from the communities and from colleagues and people that I know that at first it was doc.microsoft.com. Hey, it isn't working, but well, you get the hang of it very quickly, and the most of the things that you earlier had in docs are now just redirected to Learn, and it feels, it has the same trust and feel like it had, but it's the integration within the Microsoft Learn modules. They're brilliant. So just to summarize what you said about leveraging that cloud native approach for organizations that are not there yet. From what I understand is that it's more on an innovation and research approach than rather building out the business case and get your agreement on, yeah, let's build something. So it's more about doing and learning than thinking and building a business case. Is that correct?
No. I mean, of course, we have like multi-level, multi-layer approach, and I presented about what I do. Of course, we have account teams, we have technical sellers, we have cloud solution architects who closely work with our customers and help them to adopt cloud technologies, starting from business cases. Yeah, so definitely this is also in place, and we have lots of materials, lots of decks, narratives for business decision makers as well. So I purely focused on how I tackle this.
So Microsoft gives the best of both worlds, right? So
Totally,
Jonah,
totally.
I'm very interested in. We both are Microsoft certified trainers, but I'm
Yes.
not one writing a book about the cloud computing and development fundamentals. So you obviously have an opinion about all of this, about skilling, right?
Yeah, not just upskilling as a Microsoft certified trainer, but also about what Maxim shared about cloud transformation and moving to cloud, how we can convince organization to believe in the power of cloud. That's really interesting, and I was just listening and reflecting in my own journey, because as a developer years ago, one of my project was a cloud migration to Azure in a legacy app that's like very old, on premise, had the struggles to move to the cloud. And one of the things that I can share with you, both of you in the audience, is that one of the challenges that I saw in that project, cloud migration project, is the lack of cloud migration strategy and business plan, and also understanding what the cloud can really provide in terms of like scalability, reliability, in a way that in that project, for example, it didn't make it to production because the organization were scared about the cloud. They're scared that it's not secure. It's scared that their data will be lost. So I think the most important thing to help organization is the cloud readiness and educating. And that comes in the picture of me as a certified Microsoft certified trainer. Because of that experience, it kind of like a domino effect that led me to be interested in writing my first book, Learning Microsoft Azure, which is about fundamentals. It focuses on it really educating and teaching about Azure to new developers in IT organizations. So I'm really excited about that. And on my side, in terms of my free time, I try as a certified trainer to really introduce the fundamentals of Azure, like AZ900 and AZ204. And next level is the AZ400 that I'm also certified. So those like three levels are like basic steps in getting ready, both developers and IT organizations. For example, AZ900, which is the fundamentals part. So yeah, so as a writer, as a public speaker, and as a teacher or trainer, it's really inspiring because the more you teach, the more you speak, the more you write about Azure, the more I learned also, which I can use in my development projects to Azure or to the cloud. So it's exciting. You can feel it in my voice, right?
Yeah, so I'm just going to throw out a statement.
Yeah,
And
yeah, sure.
I'm very eager to see how you guys react on what I'm just going to I'm just going to throw it out
Okay,
here.
okay, exciting.
So yeah. So in back in the days, and I think nowadays still a lot of people have like their internet browser open with many tabs of Stack Overflow and learn.microsoft.com. And is it nowadays? I think that it nowadays is more important to know what is feasible and what you can do with technology rather than how you build it. Is it something that you guys can agree on? Is it something you have another other view on?
No, Maxim can start.
Yeah, if we abstract a bit from the cloud, and if I put my hat of web front-end developer on, that's absolutely relevant statement. And if we dive deeper into a particular part of web front-end development, which is progressive web apps, and this is my favorite topic in that area. This is actually what I do by extensive speaking, training, blogging. I explain what's possible to achieve with a bunch of new web APIs, with new features in the browsers, and in new points of support of web front-end applications from platform perspective. Yeah, and only then I introduce, let's say, technical details, all these APIs. And yeah, my goal is, my first goal is to share what's possible to achieve. And you're absolutely right that that's relevant for many more pieces of informational technology in general, because pace of development is so high that yeah, it's hard to stay in sync, even in understanding what's possible, not even saying about how to implement this. So to sum up, introducing what's new is a very important narrative in all kinds of technical presentations.
Yes, that's really interesting. That I also, I mean, if I were to answer, give my opinion about that in terms of being a developer, being a DevOps, or being someone working with cloud solutions slash cloud architect, many roles I have. I think for me, it's important to choose the best possible solutions in Azure or cloud. So I myself is a living testimony of that, because I'm writing a book about fundamentals of Azure, and Maxime and you both know that Azure is pretty broad. If you're a beginner, it's hard to choose. Should I choose Azure Functions for my serverless solution, or should I choose Azure Logic App? So those two examples just means that each problem has a specific solution in line with it. And as an architect or someone, a developer, finding solution for it is just means that you find the best possible solution for it without being biased, of course. So choose the right one for each scenario. And that's the good thing about community and Microsoft Learn and learning and Azure MVPs, because we share different areas of topic, and it's up to the organizations or developers to choose which path to carry on or which solution to choose in solving their problems in their work or personal projects like we do.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I may to drop in some references to our documentation, we have something what we call well-architected framework, which is exact what Jonah presented, set of architectures, kind of reference architectures for this or that scenario based on industry, business case, and many more details. And in many cases, there is no one correct answer. There are so many, ways to achieve the same, and the question is what works better for your particular use case.
Yes, that's right. I have something to add as well. It's very exciting now. We're like you see the passion, like it's that time you forget the time. But I want to also add from the well-architected framework, since I speak a lot about my cloud migration experience. I want to share also to those that are listening or organizations that are having challenges with cloud adoption or cloud migration, specifically in Azure. There's actually the cloud adoption framework that actually guides people or teams, organizations, how to get started in migrating to the cloud. So there are different options. You can do full cloud native, you can do hybrid or multi-cloud. And that's also like a good example of there are different ways to solve the problem. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I can illustrate this cloud adoption framework, CAF, by one example from our customers here in Microsoft Norway. We have a large banking group called Sparebank N, and they were so happy, so excited with their own solution on enterprise landing zone. So they even gave a name to this. It's called Eunomia, and they created logotype for their Azure landing zone. And I invited them to present about their solution at Microsoft Ignite, and they delivered this session. Was super popular, lots of feedback, many participants. So yes, this foundational part of cloud can also be, as exciting as what you built on top of this, as the applications and the workloads themselves. So foundation is super important to properly start with.
Yeah, so
Yes.
for all those people listening and saying that you can't start with a cloud native approach, there are no more excuses. If you need to build a business case, Microsoft is there to help you with a customer team, if you will. Just call your customer team. If you want to do it by yourself, by an innovation approach or research development approach, you can leverage all the documentation on learn.microsoft.com. And if you're still not able to empower your vision or your cloud native approach, you can always grab back to the communities and call people like Jonah or Rolf or any other
Yes.
MVP out there. We are there for helping other technology people and technology-minded people that have the same ambition as we had a few years ago. So don't hesitate to reach out. I like this podcast, but I think we're at the closing of this episode because the time is flying.
Yes, too bad, because I thought we are just like accelerating there.
Yeah. So maybe we can come back do a part two, right? Before we wrap it up, Jonah, where can listeners find you online?
Yes, they can find me everywhere. Just kidding. Yeah, they can follow me on LinkedIn. So I'm Jonah Andersson there, and I'm also on Twitter, CJ Kodare. Kodare means coder in Swedish, and I also have a website, jonahandersson.tech. And if you're interested to read the first 7 chapters or half of my book, let me know or connect to me, because I'm actually actively sharing about my book to the community, because I want my Learning Microsoft Azure book to be like community engagement active book. So I'll look forward to that. So reach out to me if you need mentoring about Azure or anything, and join our community, Azure User Group Sweden as well, if you're in Sweden or anywhere.
And Maxime, where can people find you?
It's super easy. My favorite social network is LinkedIn. I'm Maxim Salnikov there, and I'm very open for new connections, and very open for all conversations we have there. So it's the best place to reach out to me. And Jonah, if you need more reviewers for your book, I'm at your service.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
So that's the power
Sure.
of the community, right?
Yes, yes.
It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to both of you, and thank you once again for joining. All the people listening, thank you for joining us today. I hope you will join us in the next episode, and well, take care.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to us or
Thank
watching.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.